to realize that. I know, right? This is John Cat, Ralph. You're never share visually? Of course, until I realize that. If you consume. I know, right? Yep. If you consume visually. Of course, until you didn't know this. If I was gonna make sure. Definitely. But if you consume, I guess, visually. If I was gonna make sure visually. Okay, I did not spoon that. I know, right? If you consume visually. I know. So, how am I gonna figure that out, definitely? Well, if you consume, I guess, usually. Oh, I realized that. Right. Can't figure it out this definitely. But if I consume, I guess, usually. To figure this out. Okay. If I consume, I guess. Okay, I did not spoon that. I know, right? If you consume, I guess, visually. If I was gonna make sure I realized that definitely. If I consume. And I was gonna make sure. Okay. Whoa, I did not spoon this. I know, right? If I consume, Julie. And I was gonna make sure until I realized that. So, if you consume. Yep. If I consume, I guess. Okay. I was gonna make sure you realize that definitely. Ah, nope. I was not that close, definitely. If you consume me shit last time. Whoa! You're not spoon, so you can do that. Yep. If you consume, I guess. Okay. I did not spoon, so you can do that. I know, right? If you consume, I guess, visually. Okay, I did not spoon this. I know. It's over the iris, definitely. Okay. If you consume. I know. But I didn't notice. Lame, man. Why I'm cutting stuff. Okay. There. Figured that out. So, if I consume. Inside from here. It's okay. Just for me. Heck goes. So you didn't notice? Nope. So you figured this out, actually. Okay. Whoa! Oh, this is not gonna be. Okay! I know, I was over here the whole time, Julie. Okay, I did not spoon stack. Hey! You're not sure realize that? Yep. I was gonna make sure I realized that, actually. But if you consume, I guess. Why? I was gonna make sure about that, definitely. But if you consume, I guess. Okay. So, you consume? Yep. I was gonna make sure I realized that, definitely. Right. You did not spoon that. I know. It's not going anywhere, I guess. Okay. Until I figure this out. Alright, didn't you not spoon that? I know, Vigilante. Ah, nope. I was not that close. Okay. Whoa. Alright, let me figure this out. Okay, I did not spoon this. Vigilante. Okay, I did not spoon that. I guess I was right about that, definitely. But if you consume, I guess, Vigilante. Until I figure this out, okay? But if you consume, I guess. Okay, we did it the whole time. I know, I'm going. Okay. You don't spoon that. Eventually, since I realized that. But if I assume, I guess. Definitely, but if I assume. Visually. Come on, back now. Oh, not that close. Oh, okay. I did not spoon said let that happen. Visually, of course. Okay. Alright, let me try to get to there. Okay, I did not spoon that. I know, same virus, I guess, visually. Of course. He's two in there, right? Yep, if you can assume, Julie. Of course. So I realized that, definitely. Oh, okay. I need some help here. Okay. Wow, you're not doing good. I know, I was over there. Okay, but not that close. Ah, not that close. Once again, Julie. Of course. You didn't know this? Nope, it was over there. Right, good point. If you can assume, I guess, Julie. Of course. Until you didn't know this. Right, you did not spoon that. I know, right? If I can assume, I guess. Okay, guess you did good. And step. What? If you can assume? Okay. I did not spoon that. I know. Right, I was getting some bad ideas. Of course. Until I didn't know this. Right. I was gonna make sure you realize that. I know, right? If I could assume, I guess, definitely. Okay, so you can assume? Yep, if you can assume, Julie. Of course. Until I didn't know this. Right, you're not sure where else that, isn't? Yep, if you can assume. Okay. I did not spoon stuff, Julie. Of course. Until I didn't know this, definitely. If you can assume. Julie? Of course. If you can assume. Guess I was right about that, definitely. But if I can assume, I guess, Julie. Until I realized that, definitely. If I was gonna make sure of Julie. Of course. Until you didn't notice. Nope. If I can assume, I guess, visually. Until I didn't notice. Right, are you now sure? Yep. If I can assume, visually. Of course. Until I didn't notice, definitely. If I can assume, I was right about that, visually. Until I didn't notice, visually. I was gonna be sure. I know, right? If you could assume, I guess. Definitely. If you could assume. Digitally? Of course. Fine. I was gonna make sure, isn't? Nope, if you could assume. Okay.